The circumstances under which the boy king Aegon III began his reign were far from auspicious and full of glory of that of the first Aegon. The riverlords who had broken Aegon II's last army at the Battle of the King's Road marched to King's Landing prepared for a fight. Instead, Lord Corlys Velaryon and Prince Aegon the Younger rode forth to meet them under a peace banner. "The king is dead. Long live the king," Lord Corlys said as he yielded up the city to their mercy. Then, as in now, the riverlords were a factious, quarrelsome lot. Kermit Tully, the Lord of Riverrun, was their liege lord, and nominally commander of their host. But it must be remembered that his lordship was but 19 years of age, and as green as summer grass, as the northerners might say. His brother Oscar, who had slain 3 men during the Muddy Mess, and been knighted on the battlefield afterwards, was still greener, and cursed with a sort of prickly pride so common in second sons. House Tully was unique amongst the great houses of Westeros. Aegon the Conqueror had made them Lord Paramount of the Trident, yet in many ways they continued to be overshadowed by many of their own bannermen. The Brackens, the Blackwoods and the Vances all ruled wider domains and could field much larger armies, as could the upstart Freys of the twins. The Malices of Seaguard had a prouder lineage. The Mootons of Maidenpool were far wealthier, and Harrenhal, even cursed and blasted and in ruins, remained a more formidable castle than Riverrun. The undistinguished history of House Tully had only been exacerbated by the character of its last 2 lords, but now the gods had brought the younger generation of Tullys to the fore, a pair of proud young men determined to prove themselves. Lord Kermit as a ruler, and Sir Oscar as a warrior. Riding beside them, from the banks of the Trident to the gates of King's Landing, was the ever younger man, Benjicott Blackwood, Lord of Raventree, Bloody Ben, as his men had taken to calling him, who was only 13, an age to which most high-born boys are still squires, grooming their masters' horses and scouring the rust from their mail. Lordship had fallen on him early, when his father, Lord Samwell Blackwood, had been slain by Amos Bracken at the Battle of the Burning Mill. Despite his youth, the boy lord had refused to delegate authority to an older man. At the fish feed, he had famously wept at the sight of so many dead. Yet he did not flinch from battle afterwards, but rather sought it out. His men had helped him drive Criston Cole from Harrenhal by hunting down his foragers. He commanded the centre at the 2nd Tumberton, and during the Muddy Mess, he had led the flank attack from the woods that had broken Lord Baratheon's Stormlanders, and won the day. Clad for court, it was said Lord Benjicott was very much a boy, tall for his age but slight of build, with a sensitive face and a shy, self-affecting manner. Clad in mail and plate, Bloody Ben was altogether a different man, and one who had seen more battlefields at 13 than most men would do their entire lives. There were, to be sure, other lords and famous knights amongst the host that Corlys Velaryon confronted outside the Gate of the Gods that day in 131 AC, all of them older, some of them wiser than Bloody Ben Blackwood and the brothers Tully. Yet somehow the 3 youths had emerged from the muddy mess of the Battle of the King's Road as undoubtable leaders of the older lords. Bound by battle, the 3 had become so inseparable that their men began referring to them collectively as the lads. Amongst their supporters were 2 extraordinary women. Alysanne Blackwood, called Black Ally, a sister to the late Lord Samwell Blackwood, and thus aunt to Bloody Ben, and Sabitha Frey, the lady of the twins, the widow of Lord Forrest Frey, and mother to his heir, a sharp-featured, sharp-tongued harridan of House Varpen, who would sooner ride than dance, wore mail instead of silk, and was fond of killing men and kissing women, according to Mushroom. The lads knew Lord Corlys Velaryon only by reputation, but that reputation was formidable, having arrived at King's Landing with the expectation that they would need to besiege the city or take it by storm. They were delighted, if surprised, to have it presented to them on a gilded platter, and to learn that King Aegon II was dead. The Benjicott Blackwood and his aunt both expressed distaste about the manner of his death. The poison was regarded as a coward's weapon, and lacking in honour. Glad cries rang down the field, and words of the king's death spread, and one by one the lords of the Trident and their allies came forward to bend their knees before Prince Aegon and hail him their king. As the riverlords rode through the city, small folk cheered them from the rooftops and balconies, and pretty girls scramped forward to shower their saviours with kisses, like mummers in a farce, says Mushroom, suggesting that all this had been devised by Larys Strong, the clubfoot. The gold cloaks lined the streets, lowering their spears as the lads rode by. Within the Red Keep, the lads found the dead king's body laid beneath the Iron Throne, with his mother, Queen Alicent, weeping beside it. What remained of Aegon's court had gathered in the hall. Amongst them, Lord Larys Strong of the Clubfoot, Grand Maester Orwyle, Sir Perkin the Flea, Mushroom, Septon Eustace, Sir Giles Bargrave, and 4 other Kingsguard, and a sundry of lesser lords and household knights. Orwyle spoke for them, hailing the riverlords as deliverers. Elsewhere, in the Crown Lands and along the Narrow Sea, the dead king's remaining loyalists were now yielding to. The Bavosi landed Lord Leowyn Corbray at Duskendale with half the power that Lady Arryn had sent down from the Vale. The other half disembarked at Maidenpool under his brother, Sir Corwyn Corbray. Both towns welcomed the Arryn host with a feast and flowers. Stokeworth and Rosby fell bloodlessly, hauling down the golden dragon of Aegon II to rise the red dragon of Aegon III. Dragonstone's garrison proved more stubborn, barring their gates and vowing defiance. They held out for 3 days and 2 nights. On the 3rd night, the castle grooms, cooks, and serving men took up arms and rose against the king's men, slaughtering many as they slept, and delivering the rest in chains to young Alan Velaryon.